So good morning everyone, this is Polly, Rathbone Ward, I'm Paul, Paxtons estate agents. We are at Hartley Farm in Winsley, near Bradford on Avon. It's all changed a bit in here since last time we came. I think the last time we came was obviously pre-COVID, here we are post-COVID. And we're now sitting in what is called the barn. Whereas last time we were sitting in what was the coffee shop thing, weren't we? So all changed a little bit, but everywhere's changed. So whichever coffee place or whatever I go to, restaurant seems to be really, really different. So Polly and I have known each other for, I don't know, 4 years? Yeah, thereabouts. I think, I probably shouldn't say this, but I think you get to meet an HR consultant when you need their assistance because something's gone dramatically wrong and it's outside your sphere of your world of what you do know about HR. So that was how I met Polly, who was extremely helpful during a difficult period with the business of sick employee. You shouldn't actually say that, I suppose, but anyway, I've said it now. And we've remained, I'd say, friends. And we meet up periodically. Polly does contracts and things and provides information and has done all our protocols, I suppose, in terms of things like maternity and other stuff like that. So that's really how we got to know each other. So we've been sitting here talking for 2 hours. We haven't even started this yet, so we've been talking about absolutely everything. I think we've covered pretty well every aspect, from children to generals in the army, Lord Lieutenants, music, yeah, conductors, composers, choral, you name it, we've done it. But then I think we've spoken a little bit about work outside of that as well, but not a lot. So I asked Polly if she would be willing to come, which obviously she did, or she would be sitting next to me now. And really, if there was a particular theme in her business life that is important to her, and that theme, I won't mention it because she's going to say what it is anyway. It's called Kickstart, but initially she's going to just talk about herself, family, how she got into HR, where she's been, where she is now, where she plans to be going forward in the future. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? And then she's going to talk about Kickstart, so give us a little bit of feedback on that. So the floor is yours.
Gosh, thank you, Paul, and thank you for inviting me along today. So lovely to actually catch up.
You might have to shout a bit, I'm afraid it's quite noisy in here. We've got a speaker above our head here.
Sure.
Not strategically placed, I think.
It's just so lovely to catch up with people in person again. It's just really lovely. So thank you for inviting me along today. So I'm Polly. I run my own HR consultancy business. I've done that for around about, coming up to 4 years. So my background is all HR, so coming up to 20 years actually working in HR after I qualified with my CIPD qualification. And I've worked in a variety of industries, private sector, public sector, most recently in engineering and online publishing. And then, my most recent employed role was, I was actually the first HR professional that they'd had in the business because the business was growing. And I was there for about 4 years, and previous to that I'd always joined an existing HR team. So it was really lovely and satisfying actually to be able to set up an HR function from scratch. And it got me thinking about, I would love to be able to do that, not just for one business, but for lots of businesses. And it had been in my mind, perhaps I might be brave enough to step out on my own for a couple of years. And then eventually I took the leap. I'm hugely glad and grateful that I did so. I have met some amazing people along the way, some fantastic clients, and it's a real joy and privilege to be able to work with small to medium-sized businesses helping them setting up their HR function, and help them to develop as well the culture that they want to develop in their business, and
keep talking.
Also, as Paul said, with any employee issues that might crop up. So it's a real joy. And also we were also just talking just before about the opportunities that come along, and about how, oh that's lovely, thank you, that's our drinks arriving, about how opportunities come along and how important it is to step out of your comfort zone occasionally, thank you. And that when you take these opportunities, other opportunities often come off the back of that. And I think it's about being brave enough to take those opportunities and see where it leads you. So I'm based in Bath. I've got 3 children and a puppy now. And
twins?
Yeah, twins. 2 of those are twins. Yeah.
All boys.
All boys, even the puppy. Yeah. Home life is quite busy. So that's a brief introduction about me. What's next on the agenda?
Well, what do you think, since you went out by yourself, what would you say is the prime thing that you've learned? What would you put at the top as, what have I learned that sits above everything else?
That's a huge question.
I know it is.
Because,
put you on the spot?
Yeah, fair enough. So I've been in HR my entire career, so HR is actually quite an internal facing function. We're dealing primarily with the employees and stakeholders within the business. So to have to step outside of that and talk to people and deal with all aspects of the business, from marketing, social media, finance, admin, everything, and then a little bit of HR on top, has been a massive learning curve. But I have to say, I absolutely love it, and you never stop learning. So I think one thing is just to really love professional and personal development.
Yeah.
So you just never stop learning. I'm always watching webinars or YouTube or finding out, the latest what's going on in marketing, or what do I do about accounting, or just any aspect of the business. And when I look back, it's quite a journey, professionally and personally. And I'm so glad that I did take the leap. It's scary at the time, and sometimes it still is scary. But really pleased to have made the leap.
Well, I think the one thing that I think we both have in common is, I live in Trowbridge, you live in Bath. That's not the thing in common, is that we're both rubbish at maths apparently. At school, and
Definitely.
I am still rubbish at maths as well. And I think the one thing you learn about, when I started my business probably 6.5 years ago, as you say, it's a real learning curve, isn't it? And then you employ people, and that changes the whole dynamic of the way that your business operates. And now you've just employed some people, haven't you? So tell us about that.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a lovely freelancer who helps me with my marketing, but I've recently employed somebody as an HR assistant, so somebody to help me with some admin and an extra pair of hands. And I've actually employed her through the government Kickstart Scheme.
Which is what you're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah. So she's hugely helpful already, and I think when you run your own business, you are responsible for absolutely everything, and to have an extra pair of hands is so invaluable. So the Kickstart Scheme.
Yes, tell us about the Kickstart Scheme now. Yeah.
Sure. So the government Kickstart Scheme has been set up in response to the pandemic for 16 to 24-year-olds. As the government had identified that group as being particularly adversely affected by the pandemic and their employment prospects. So this scheme helps people who are on universal credit benefit to come off benefit and to come into an employed role. And the government will actually pay salary and pension contributions for 6 months for that person.
That's really helpful, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing, I think. So, and also you're giving somebody employability skills, training, giving someone 6 months working experience, so that then they can go on and be more
gives
easily.
them a bit of purpose in life, doesn't it? Really, a bit of motivation and direction to help them along the way, hopefully.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it should become long-time employee as well.
That would be the ideal. Plan.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, I think, if you've not heard of it and you are a small employer, you can create a role, apply through the DWP for this scheme, and if it's approved, you can recruit through the job centre. And my experience has been quite smooth. It takes a little bit of time, but it's really, really fun. And from my perspective, exciting actually to actually employ someone, because my livelihood is advising businesses on how to employ, how to recruit, what people's legal obligations are when you become an employer, and to actually go through that myself has been really fun. Again, a huge learning curve again, but really quite fun and very exciting.
It is, and I think the thing is about, we were talking about sort of lone working, which can be very insular, and I think with COVID just made it even more insular. And I think having people that work with you, staff, whatever you want to call them, is a real plus, because it gives you someone to bounce things off. And it may be that they're not as knowledgeable as you are, but it's someone else that you can say bounce things off really, whereas before it was just you.
Yeah. When I first set up on my own, I would find it very hard to make decisions, because there's no one, as you say, to bounce ideas around with. So I would have these same thoughts going around in my head, but none of them were being particularly helpful thoughts in helping me get to a conclusion. So,
because the trouble is, you're never quite sure what's right and what's wrong. Should I? Shouldn't I? It's that sort of decision. It's a very lonely place to be, isn't it? And I think that. So how do you see the future for you and your business? What are your aspirations in going forward?
My aspirations, I'm an HR consultant supporting small to medium-sized businesses with any employee advice or employment support, and I want to continue doing that, and I want to grow my portfolio of clients, potentially bring on more people to support me. I do really enjoy actually the marketing side of things, and as I said earlier, about the opportunities that come along. So pre-COVID I was doing lots of speaking at events, career events, industry events, and it's a real joy to be asked to speak at these sorts of events. And during the pandemic and during lockdowns, that was still happening, but virtually, which I'm glad to say. So I'd like to do more of that. I like to speak at events and things like that as well.
Good. Well, I'm going to plan. I think Polly sort of knows this. We sort of spoke about this a little bit. Is to maybe do a series. Obviously talking about Kickstart, which is obviously a really good opportunity for people that are out of work on university credit and so on, that really want the opportunity to get back into the workplace but can't get there. And I think obviously it's been a lot more difficult with obviously COVID than it was previously. When I worked at Skanska in London, well I say London all over, but my last role at the Home Office, I was project manager at the Home Office, or one of the project managers. One of my responsibilities was taking in the university graduates from Loughborough University and Britain through Skanska, through the business. But my other role was working with the YTS scheme, and we were working closely with Pimlico School in Victoria. And the idea of that was bringing young people in from the school and encouraging them and directing them to try and get into the construction industry in whatever role that would be. So I would take them through all the different elements of construction, take them around the Home Office, which obviously was a massive refurbishment, the biggest refurbishment in the UK. But it was great dealing with the children, and I set up a scheme where I wanted to involve the school children in something to do with the project. So anyway, it came up with this scheme where we would get someone to take a photograph of pretty well everyone that was on the project, and I think it was probably 400 or 500 people working on that, and ask them to provide me with every walk of life in terms of construction, and to get them to make a statement regarding health and safety that was important to them in their lives. And so that health and safety statement would go with the photo, and the photos in the statement, I don't know how many, I can't remember now, probably 100 or so, went off to Pimlico School for the young children, and they had to draw the person from the photo and to put their health and safety statement underneath their drawn picture. Well, you can imagine some of those people didn't look anything like the photos, but they were absolutely brilliant. And then what we did, we had it screen printed onto all the billboards around the whole of the Home Office. So there would be a picture of this person, drawing, which probably didn't look anything like that, their name on it, and their health and safety statement. And for that, we won Special Project of the Year for Skanska, and it was great, and it was lovely working with the children and working under the ITS scheme, working with the graduates as well, and encouraging people to come into the industry and maybe to look at doing things maybe that they had never considered doing before. So yeah, I'm all for all of that. Any opportunities, we take in, maybe this is one for Polly as well, work experience. From schools I get applications from some like Wiltshire College, things like that. Some of the schools I get some individuals writing to me from schools asking if they can come and do work experience. We've done a number of those over the years, and I think it's a really, really good thing to do, so I'm all for that. Now I'm going to really digress here and put Polly on the spot again. Now, Polly sings in a choir, alright? And I'm sure she sings absolutely brilliantly. But she's going to tell you who she actually, the concert she sang in. Come on, Polly, right on the spot. Tell us all about it.
Oh, I sing with a gospel choir in Bath called Vocal Works, and a few years ago we sang on stage with Take That in Ashton Gate Stadium, which was the most amazing experience. And I think there were 34,000 people there, and I cannot tell you the noise of the crowd, and it was just amazing. I mean, I've never been more terrified ever, but also just so happy and excited. I mean, it was such an amazing experience. We sang Never Forget with the choir, and I was on stage and 34,000 people were like,
brilliant.
It was just amazing. So, yeah, amazing.
Well, if you want to see that, it is on YouTube apparently, and I've not seen it. But I'm going to watch it when I get back. No, she just said, can I edit that out? The answer is no. Well, anyway, hopefully it's on there, and if it's not, I apologise. Anyway, so anything else you want to add at all? Besides edit that out? Or take that out?
Yes, never forget that, okay?
I won't ever forget that.
I think shall I go into it?
Yeah, go, carry on.
I think it's been really interesting seeing from an outside perspective, because obviously I'm not in-house HR, I'm looking at things from an external point of view and helping businesses as best they can navigate through this awful time that we've all had through the pandemic. And I guess if I was just to say something that hopefully might help some businesses out there, I would urge you to sort of look at the opportunities that have come out of this time. It's been horrendous for us all. We've all had to adapt in some way. And I think what's really come out is that some organisations and individuals have had a really have had really different experiences of this whole time. So I think there's a real opportunity now for employers to look at perhaps, what's worked over this time and what hasn't worked, and maybe to think about how we can use the things that have worked, the positives, and perhaps keep them or adapt them, or so that we can sort of shape a new future as we come out of this time. I think I wouldn't have wished this on anybody, and obviously it came completely out of the blue, and we all had to adapt overnight to a very, very difficult situation. And I think we need to take this opportunity to perhaps see what we can do a little bit differently, and perhaps think of people as individuals, and what circumstances are they in, and what can we do as an employer to make things a bit more easy or a bit more flexible, or how can we amend things? Do people really have to be in the office from 9 till 6 or whatever, or can we be a bit more flexible in order to support people and make things a little bit less stressful for people?
Yes,
So
I agree.
I would urge people to sort of consider that, see what you can maybe do to make things a bit more flexible or adaptable, or we've seen what we can do. We've seen what we can do under very difficult circumstances. Let's not let that go to waste.
Absolutely.
Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, we ignore history at our own peril, don't we? And I think that it's just changed the whole dynamic about the way that we work as people, the way that we live, and as an employer, how we deal with our staff and or employees, and also all the people around us as well. In fact, I'm going to talk about this in another session, which is actually after this, talking about being an employer. And we're probably going to move from here, so we haven't got a speaker over the top of our head. Strategically badly chosen. So hopefully you'll be able to hear what we're recording. But I think that there's a lot to learn from the COVID experience, and hopefully we'll take good out of the bad and we'll apply that in going forward. So thank you very much for that, Polly. Until next time, which will be in about 5 minutes' time when we get outside and cross over there, we'll do the next one. Anyway, thanks ever so much for that. I really appreciate that. I'm sorry about putting you on the spot about take that.
No problem.
And I'm just going to switch this off.